Today we're going to have a look at setting up your environment options in Procura for schedulers. Within Procura there are several areas in which you can create or customise your environment options, and by customising those options it will make using the system a little bit easier for you. When you initially log into Procura, you will see the Procura toolbar across the top of the screen. And if we go to the top left-hand corner here, you'll see a little hammer and spanner icon. If you click onto that icon, it says User Environment Options. That will open up your first environment options screen. Some of the settings in this General tab will make, again, using Procura a little bit easier. So let's have a look at these options here. To begin with, your default department will always be set to the department that you're in. So I'm in East, so we'll set that default department to East. Moving down, there is a default area and a default planner section. We will leave the default area blank because as a scheduler, you'll be scheduling across several areas. The default planner is an area that you can select the general that area that you look after. Having a default planner means that every time that you open up a planner, it's going to default to that particular area. If we have a look in the drop-down box here, we have a few different planners that we can default to. If I was working in East Work Group 3, so that's 7 to 10, that would be the planner that I select. Now, it's worthwhile me pointing out that even if you do select a default planner, you don't need to go in and change it all the time. You certainly can go in and change your options on a daily basis or throughout the day, but you do have the option to change that setting within a screen as well. Over here we have a visit duration format. There's either hours or minutes. Hours or minutes is the preferred way to view the time. If you select a visit duration of hours, Procura will actually break down a percentage of an hour. So for example, 30 minutes will be 0.33 of an hour. We can also in here choose to display 24-hour time. Now moving to the next tab, which says Workstation Options. There's a couple of recommendations in here. So we will ensure that we have all of these standard report options in the first column ticked and have print report options at the top of the page in the second column ticked. As far as additional options go, this tick box right here is quite useful in actually saving you a step that you will do quite commonly. So what it will do is actually allow you bring up a search box every time that you go to search for a client or an employee. Once you have these settings selected, you can say OK, and that will save those predefined environment options for you. Now there is another area, or another two areas, in which setting up your environment options makes a difference. If we move from the Client tab over to the Scheduling tab and open up a client schedule, so I can see in this tab I've got some separate areas. I've got client scheduling and employee scheduling. To open up a client schedule, I can click onto Schedules. And you'll see when I hover over the top there, it also shows me a shortcut. If I was to hit on my keyboard Control, Alt and C, it would allow me to search for the same thing. So there are a couple of options in Procura. If you're a keyboard user, that keyboard shortcut Control, Alt, C will be quite useful for you. I'll click into Schedules. And this pop-up box here is what we enabled in the environment option before to allow us to search. Now, if I click into where it says Value to Find, and I'll type in the surname of my employee. In this instance, I'm just going to use one of our, the surname of our client. I'll just type in my client's surname and press OK. And then my client is showing for me on the list. Now, in this box here, I can see client surname and some other details. It's not too imperative that I have the correct client here because I'm just accessing the client's schedule so I can work on my environment options. So if I say OK here, We'll open up a client schedule, and this schedule will open up on top of our current view. Now what you can see here is there is another hammer and spanner icon, which we can click onto and now set up our client schedule environment options. So working our way through the screen, we're going to show the visit information bar. And the visit information bar is this area here that we can see running alongside our client schedule. The options that we do need to select is Date Navigator, Visit Information, Client Employee Information, Day Schedule. We're not ticking Service Plan, so we're leaving that blank, and Visit Care Plan. Now we have the option below to change the font size of our calendar. So I could make it smaller or larger as required. Moving down into the column below, again, there is one tick box that we are not enabling, and that is automatically accepting visit move if valid. So basically we're saying that we still want to make that choice before we move or accept a visit. Moving down to printing options, we're just using that top radio button there. In this visit filters section, you can tick every option. There is a default view option here, and we can leave that as a month. There are a few different options, but we'll leave that as a month. In day timeline view, we're going to have the first visit of the day being the first item that we scroll to. And in the month view here, we can select how many weeks we would like to show. So I am going to stick with 4 weeks. Makes for quite a clean view. Let's go up here to the display options. Now with the display options, there are 3 options that we need to have selected. So the first one is check for episode, care plan if no visit care plan. The second is show employee availability. And the third is show visits with expenses in bold. So making sure that we've got those 3 items ticked. Moving down, and the rest of the items in that column, we are just going to leave blank. Now finally, we have this section here that allows us to show our visit display options. So when we first open up the client schedule, our overall view can give us some basic information or information that's useful to us to see at any given time. To add in, I already have one in here, but we'll go through and we'll add another one. So if I click onto the add button, and I can name this area. So I might call it my client view and say OK. In the formula section, I can choose exactly what I want displayed on the screen on my calendar view. And to do that, I can right click, and it gives me a list of different information that can show. We'll choose employee area and then place a space, right click again, and next to employee area, we will enter in times, another space, employee name. Now there's a few different options for employee name. Employee last name or first name will only give those, but employee name will provide us the full name. Another space, right click again, and my final option is going to be priority code. Just searching through the list for that code. once you have entered in the formula that you want to display, if you press the Test Save button, it will actually test the formula that you've put in, and this is going to show me exactly how it will display on the client schedule for me. So the formula, the employee area, the visit times, employee name, and the priority code of the visit. If we say OK at this point, what we can see on our screens, and I'll just expand that, is the information that we've requested. So my employee area is work group 4, lat 12, the visit time. These visits have been scheduled in for a subcontractor, and it's of critical priority. Now, there are similar settings for us to put in place for our employee schedule. So far we have set up a client schedule view. If I was to click into the top section here where it says employee and click into schedule, that's going to open up an employee schedule for me. So just like the client, it is not imperative to have any particular employee. Doing it on one employee schedule will change the settings overall. And again, we're going up to the top of the screen where the hammer and spanner icon is, and we'll click onto that icon. So my schedule environment options box is opened again. It's very similar to the last box that we looked at. There are a couple of differences though. So having a look at this screen here at the start at the top, we will show the visit information bar again. Keep it to align right. We are selecting everything in here apart from the service plan. Again, you can personalize your calendar font size. Moving down, we've got the same options in here as we did before. Just tick that. And not select the automatically accept visit move if valid. Printing options, we are selecting the first radio button. Moving down to visit filters. Now in this visit filters area, we are going to select everything in the first line of the column. Moving down where it says show attendance types, we're just selecting the first two, so show refusals and show non-track hour types. We've got our default monthly view. In the day timeline review, scroll to the first day, just as we did before. In the month view, it's asking how many weeks we want to show, and I just might reduce that down to 4 in here. And again, we can set up some calendar visit display options. So the process again is the same as we did before. Clicking on to add allows us to add a new. You can name it whatever you wish. And then to enter in a formula, we are right-clicking and choosing what we want to display. So in this instance, because my view is now from the employee schedule, the information that I want is relating to the client. So the first item that I'm going to choose is my client name. A spacebar. And then I can put in some additional information about the visit. I can put in the visit times, a spacebar, the priority code of the visit, which I'm looking for, pri code. Oh, and I might just pop my cursor at the start here because I forgot to enter in the client area. So if I right click again, I can put in the client area. So this is very similar to what we did within the client schedule, but this time it's from the employee schedule. So our next step is to press Test Save to see again how our formula will display. So we've got the area, Homer Simpson is our employee, the visit times, and our priority. And finally, we'll move to the column at the end with the display options. Again, with the display options, we're going to choose 3 items in this list. The first one, check for episode care plan if no visit care plan. The second, show visits with expenses in bold. We will show the employee availability and show off days in a different colour. So what this will show us is if the employee is not scheduled to work, so if they don't work on weekends, for example, that will show in a different colour to their regular available days. Now with the display options service plan episode rules, we're going to tick every one of these boxes and select OK. Now, the default view that I just put in is now displaying on the screen, so I can see my client's area, the client name, the visit time, and the priority. Now, you do have the option to set up a few different calendar views, and if you have set up multiple calendar views, which I have, by moving over to the Options tab, we can change our view from this drop-down box. So I've got a few different views here. There's a double-up view, for example. If I click onto that, that will show me different information that I have in the system. So once you have initially set them up, they're quite easy to navigate with. Your environment options, the settings are available for you in your user handbook that you first received, and also through online through our quick reference guide library. Again, you only need to set these options up once. So that is your environment options in a nutshell.